You also have Crossmark, who will take a similar approach to exclusionary screening as GuideStone. Timothy Plan, who takes a little bit of a different approach, and they'll often incorporate lifestyle into their screening philosophy. And then to get a little bit more weedy, so you can screen based on companies that are producing, companies that are distributing, and companies that are providing philanthropy dollars to certain organizations such as Planned Parenthood. So we always want to be mindful of our approach, where we will be the first to admit that our approach isn't perfect, but other companies' approach isn't as well. If we are attempting to pursue perfection, we're going to be attempting to do that continuously. We need to be able to fall into a place where we can align our values, love Jesus, and then remove or not own the companies that are being the worst offenders or that are profiting and not being good stewards of God's resources. So that's the exclusionary screen. That's the first value proposition. The second value proposition is, if clients are owning these companies and we're being a conduit to that, how are we writing to the organizations that our clients own on behalf of what their biblical worldview is? How are we pooling our resources together with other faith-based institutions to make sure that these companies are approaching their business in a way that aligns with how our clients want to, or how our clients view the world? So a specific example of that is we own Disney. Now, while we own Disney, that may be a short ownership because of kind of what's been happening from a cultural perspective from Disney. But secondly, the fact that they're utilizing corporate resources to support an idea that, or an idea of what marriage and gender looks like, in opposition of what a biblical worldview of that is, we have a significant issue with that. So our president, Dr. Dilbeck, recently wrote a letter to Disney encouraging them to remove themselves, as you mentioned earlier, from the political advocacy and start to operate as the business that they are intended to do. And that's to provide content, wholesome content to children. And so we've seen a change from the CEO position at Disney. They've recently gone back to their old CEO. We're going to find out and see if things change. But if things do not change, we'll continue to write, we'll continue to vote in proxies, and then ultimately that may be a scenario where we remove Disney from the investable universe. But I say all that because that's the shareholder engagement aspect. Our clients, Ben, your clients, Jared, your clients, they should have the opportunity to partner with a company that shares their values, and that company be able to express those values to the companies and the businesses that they own. Now, the last component, the third value proposition, is the impact proposition, and that's kind of the inclusionary where we're seeing the business start to move. And not only that, but being the hands and feet of Jesus. So we're put in a position where we're able to manage money, and as being in that position, how are we going to bless those in the name of Jesus? And so we have an impact fund where 10% of the revenues that we derive in that fund, we give right back to the community that support biblical causes. Most specifically, we've had an opportunity to partner with the pregnancy center to allow women to have access to ultrasounds. Studies show that if a woman hears a baby's heartbeat, she's less likely, like 85% less likely to go ahead and move forward with the abortion. And we're passionate about life, and that's a big part of what we do. We also have the opportunity to partner with Send Relief, which is a missionary program, which is going out and obviously spreading the gospel, but also providing medical assistance, housing assistance, water assistance to communities that have fallen on difficult times. So that's a big part of what we do. To wrap that all up, it's a 3-value proposition: exclusionary screen, shareholder advocacy, engaging on behalf of our clients, and then the positive impact and being the hands and feet of Jesus in the community.
Just a reminder for people that have logged on, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat bar. We'll save those for the end here and make sure that we answer those. Ben, Ron covered a lot there. What's kind of some thoughts or questions going through your head?
Well, I think it seems to me that in the past, that's kind of what I heard from Ron, is it was very easy, the options for faith-based investing was just saying, I don't want to invest in that company or that company. And I would say we see more of that. with clients coming in and, oh, I heard about this particular company and I don't like what they're doing. And that is easier. I think that's the exclusionary thing where we can just say, no, we're not going to invest in them. Like I was talking about earlier, it's harder not to do any business with them because all of a sudden you find out that, something you're using is tied back to them, but at least you're doing something, right? You're able to say, no, I'm going to exclude them from who I invest in. And that's really my first step with this faith-based investing thing with Ron, their group, was to say, no, I'm not going to hold that stock that was profiting from something that I directly didn't believe in. It was completely against my values proposition, and I just said, no, it's time to make that move. So that's the exclusionary thing, and that, I think, like Ron said, I think that's been more common, and that's what we hear about, is we're going to exclude things. I think what excites me far more, and what I think will be something down the road that we continue to work with our partners on, is let's be inclusionary of, like, we're going to invest in companies that specifically do these certain things, right? They have either their management style or their they give a certain percentage back to charities. They do. I mean, there's companies all over, and unfortunately, many of them are small, privately held companies. But these great companies that are public, that have great executives who are God-fearing and doing great things, and if we can find ways to target into those, that's much more exciting for all of us. I'd almost always rather say I'm going to chase at doing something great than say no to something that I don't like. So I think that exclusionary thing is exciting. I think hearing you talk, Ron, about the work at Disney, and I think we don't carry a lot of weight. Nobody at this fund company, which we exited, cared. I mean, if they're managing literally trillions of dollars and a little company like ours says, we're not going to, hold your funds, they don't care. I think somebody like GuideStone has a little more, has a better seat at the table, if you will. So I appreciate that, sending that out to a company like Disney. It's a company too. My daughter wants the Disney Plus app, and that's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, but look at all the stuff they're doing. And then she's like, well, look at this company that what you do, but you have an Apple phone. Well, do you like everything they do? They're paying for their people to cross state borders wherever they needed so they can get abortions and blah blah blah. And you can go all on these rabbit trails again. But it comes down to doing something, looking different, and trying. And that I appreciate about you guys, Ron, is you're able to actually to write the letters, to take that step of saying, I don't like how the direction of your company. And I think we're paying you guys, like you said, to be content creators, or good stuff for our children to watch. And this doesn't feel like what you should be doing. So that's good for you guys. So, again, I think it's simple in that there's always this exclusionary thing that is a lot simpler for us. If anybody on this call or that hears this later heard, man, Ben went through this process of his portfolio and wants to do that, I've talked to Ron, we're willing to do that. And maybe it's not just GuideStone, we can run it through other companies as well, because you may hold something when we're talking specifically the exclusionary side of faith-based investing that you didn't even know you had and that you're profiting from that didn't line up. So if you were to share with our firm, like, here's our portfolio, this is what I don't want in there, we can tell you where your exposure lies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a really great conversation. One thing that I'm hearing is there are options, and not only options, there's a lot of options out there for people. You can partner with those people. Those people, folks like Ron and GuideStone, they're not only doing scrubs of excluding, but also including, like Ben said, and also too, they're trying to affect the nature and behaviors of these companies and be able to do things charitably. So again, this kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning of the webinar, that until I met Ron and we started talking about this stuff, I was like, I didn't even know these options out there existed. So I appreciate what you've said so far. Let's talk about performance. And again, part of the name of this webinar was, how does one really align with their investing, but can it compete? Let's talk about some performance, because like you said at the beginning, Ron, a lot of people think if I'm going to invest with an alignment to my values, I've got to take quote unquote the Christian discount, which I've never heard before, but is that true?
No, it's not true. You don't have to take a discount, and you can meet and exceed your financial goals at a cost-effective price point by utilizing faith-based strategies. With the 8 to 10 faith-based asset managers, they're continuing to be innovative as it relates to products, different types of products. There's ETFs, there's mutual funds, there's investments in emerging markets, international. These asset managers have asset classes to allow financial advisors to put together a complete portfolio for their clients so they can meet and exceed their financial goals. In what we have access to now are some fantastic analytical tools that will, it doesn't necessarily need to just be speak. There's proof in the pudding, and you can run Morningstar data and you can find the strategies that are 4 and 5 star strategies, and you can put together a complete portfolio for your clients. So that is absolutely possible. As it relates to GuideStone specifically, in 2012, we won a Lipper Award, which is an award for given oftentimes to fund families for performance, but for other metrics as well. But we won it based on our performance from our entire suite of mutual funds in 2012. And we did so again in 2019. So we are passionate. We feel strongly that the Lord calls us to be excellent in everything that we do. And we want to showcase excellence when it comes to investment management, because that is what we do. So 2012, 2019 Lipper Awards, we have 4 or 5 star strategies that allow clients to be able to have those strong performing strategies. Again, I'm not naive in the same regard as well. There are other faith-based asset managers that offer really strong mutual funds that compete with us and that are better performing and lower cost. It's a combination of utilization of those different fund families that love the Lord, that have the exclusionary screen, that are engaging with the companies, that are including and being inclusive and finding the companies that are protecting our biblical worldviews, and then giving back to the community. And they check all those boxes, and then they have really strong performing strategies. So you can put together a really good fund. And I'm biased, but I have my entire retirement within GuideStone mutual funds, and I'm doing very well. So I'm happy, and not only that, but I'm able to give back to the community and not invest or not partner in the profits that some of the companies that we exclude.
Ben, do you have any follow up on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would hope that, I mean, we've always got to be careful with compliance and stuff, but that's why this question comes up. But I mean, I would hope that, they should be able to do better. I mean, honestly, I think it's not something that, we can say, oh, this is guaranteed or anything. But I think when you look at, even our business here, Jared, I think we are a better financial firm by far today than we were before I got the Certified Kingdom Advisor. We have a CFP on staff. We, so we have the tools and techniques available to us, but we look at how we use those tools differently because of that designation. I come across and I meet with my clients with a different, it is a different feeling with having that. So I think it's better, actually, when I look at that designation. I would hope that over time, just knowing more about how your money is being invested, it should also help people, I guess, feel a little better about that too. Just, hey, I did something, right? I did something to try to achieve peace with how I invest my money. And maybe it's never something you've never thought about before. But I think, really the Christian discount for having a Christian financial advisor, I would agree. I mean, that doesn't exist. I think I'd pay more for one. Not that our fees are going up or anything, but I mean, that's just, the truth is that we should, and I know we do a better job today than we did before getting that designation.
Cost is only an issue in the absence of value, right? And what's the value that's being provided? And absolutely. And Ben, I appreciate that, because we need to be doing better, right? We still have funds that are not are not performing well, right? We have some funds that are performing well, but I can speak on behalf of our investment team that every day they want to continue to get better, because that, as we get better and as we kind of can eliminate what maybe that may be a barrier to entry for some, the performance aspect of it, make sure that we can have clients feel comfortable about that and show them that they don't have to sacrifice performance and we're continuing to improve performance. That's only going to make the conversation that much easier.
Wow. Well, it's been a great conversation. Again, just to kind of recap, some of the things that we've touched on, so how does somebody, how should they align their investing practices with their personal faith? We've kind of said how there is absolute truth, but there's certainly personal convictions that will drive the decisions that we make. I heard things like it definitely takes a conversation with people like Ron, certainly people like us at Taatjes Financial Group, to kind of get that in alignment, because it's not just, it may be not as simple as what it could be or maybe should be, or we could kind of work you through that. There are lots of options, and these people, put a lot of time, effort into researching. Ron, you have a whole team dedicated to researching the behaviors of these companies, and also dedicated to trying to help them change some of their practices, and also, give charitably, which is pretty interesting. And then, of course, the point that we just touched on here now was, as far as performance goes, to say, hey, you shouldn't have to take the Christian discount. And like Ben said, it should almost be better in many ways because of how you're choosing to align some of those decisions with your faith. So this is really good stuff. I do want to give everybody an opportunity. If you have any questions, put those in the meeting chat. We'll give you guys a couple of more minutes here. Ben, can you just talk about kind of what it would look like if somebody wanted to take the next step, if this is kind of people, again, I don't know if conviction is the right word, but feeling prompted to say, hey, you know what, I want somebody to take a deeper look at some of the things that I'm invested in. What does that process look like?
Well, yeah, if you're one of our clients, we're actively doing this all the time. It's not all right. You saw that last year, a full fund family line got removed from our model and portfolio. So we're making those changes all the time, and we're not perfect. We're doing our best. If somebody here was like, I've got a portfolio they just want to get reviewed, yeah, we could certainly review that for you. Reach out to myself, somebody on our team. We can get it reviewed and say, okay, we would make a few changes here, based again on a conversation where you say, I'm not comfortable with this. It's up. Again, it's your personal convictions on those items. And you'll hear that from us too, not in a judgmental way, not in a, oh man, you should have caught this years ago, because I didn't. I'm in this business. I've been in this business for 20 years, and I have owned various investments over my time frame. I've had our clients in various investments. We're always getting better. That's the goal. And I think making this move and being able to have this option available to our clients if they want it, is a big step forward. So it starts with just the conversation. What things are important to you? If you happen to have a stock, an individual holding that is definitely something that you're not comfortable with, showing you strategies of unwinding that. I don't know. I'd feel pretty good about donating one of those stocks to a charity, and then they get to profit off of money made. I don't know. Somebody might say, no, I would never do that. But again, it's the conversations that we can have with you to kind of make sure your investments align with your values.
Mm-hmm. I want to just share my screen here just for a second. If you go to our website, taatjesfinancial.com, this is what our homepage looks like. I just want to point everybody's attention to the upper right-hand corner. Right up here in the upper right-hand corner is this big yellow button, says request a meeting. If you're already a client with us, reach out to us and shoot us an email, call us and say, hey, at our next meeting or at a meeting before that, we want to talk about that. But if you're new to the firm, click on request a meeting, give us your name, your email, and then also too, I want you to click right here under, I want more information on faith-based investing, and you can feel free to fill out the rest of this as much as you wish, but then click on request a meeting. which is kind of that term of like going through that. Just give people, again, as we kind of wrap up here, I want to give everybody again another chance here to give any questions that they have any, but what does that look like? What's that process look like? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a dedicated internal team that monitors our exclusionary screen list. So on any given day, our list probably includes anywhere from 800 to 1,000 names globally that we will not invest in. And you'll actually see more from an international perspective because of alcohol conglomerates and tobacco conglomerates and some large gambling institutions that are held overseas that we will not invest in. But what we do is you can look at the company from a production level. So are they producing in these areas? Are they distributing? Or are they providing philanthropy that's opposed to my viewpoint? As you kind of start to get down the line, it becomes more gray and more difficult for data accumulation to kind of occur to make an informed decision. But where we kind of sit, GuideStone, and again, I want this all to be said with this is from my perspective. Other fund families will have different perspectives. That's why I'm very passionate about utilizing multiple faith-based investment management firms, because we're probably going to miss some things, and other faith-based managers are going to miss some things as well. We're not perfect. Let's get that straight. If anything, we're going to get on this call here, but we will not invest in any company that's publicly perceived as producing in that area. So they're going to be the large companies that you're familiar with: Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Merck, Anheuser-Busch, Philip Morris, MGM Grand, organizations that you look at them and you perceive their business as being in those areas where they're producing alcohol, tobacco, pornography, gambling, abortion. That's where we stand. And so again, that's about 800 to 1,000 names, anywhere from 8 to 12% of the investable universe. That then allows us to have a larger amount of organizations that we can engage with and be an active participant for clients. We feel oftentimes it's more impactful to own the company and have a seat at the table and voice a different opinion on how the organization and how the company should be run, rather than not owning a share of stock that can be bought on the secondary market. Again, I think, Ben, you had mentioned buying Apple on the secondary market, you're only helping the person who sold the shares to you profit, but then that'll allow you to be able to have a conversation with the board of directors and be an active member for Apple. So sometimes it's better to be an active, engaged partner, knowing that you're not going to be able to catch everything. So we understand that as it relates to companies coming on and off, that's a dialogue that is dynamic, that happens every single day. It happens on the sales desk, it happens with executive management, and then it happens with our board of directors. So we're overseen by a board of directors. Anytime we add a company or we remove a company, we have to present the case to our board of directors as an oversight committee to make sure that we're doing it with the correct heart posture and making the correct decision for our clients based on kind of what our worldview is. And then we also meet quarterly to have those in-depth conversations where we'll have anecdotal conversations about specific companies, what's happening with them. Did they spin off an acquisition? Did they acquire a company that is against our views and is producing in the areas that we don't want to necessarily operate in? Or are they beginning to distribute in a threshold or in a manner that is causing concern for us? We will not own, or we will remove a company from our investable universe if they're distributing greater than a certain threshold of their revenue in those 5 areas. So Walgreens, for example, I don't know why Walgreens sells tobacco. First and foremost, it's supposed to be a health option for clients to provide pharmaceuticals, but they sell cigarettes. So if they sell cigarettes that generate greater than 10% of the revenue in their bottom line, we would remove Walgreens. So we're running those background screens, and then we use third-party data providers to let us know, does that company fall in one of those 5 categories that we will screen. So we have a very comprehensive, dynamic process, a very human element to what we do. And Ben, you had mentioned this as well. If there's anybody on this call, if you have questions about a specific security that we own or that you own, want to know our approach to it, we miss things, as I mentioned, bring it to our attention, because there's been instances where it has been brought to my attention and we've raised it to our team and we've removed the security from our investable universe. We want this to be a very engaging partnership between the fund family, the asset management firm, the financial advisor, and their client. We welcome that. We don't want to think that we know everything, and we think that we're in a position to call all the plays, so to speak. We want active participants in this. So please talk to Ben, talk to Jared, have the conversation. It's the most important thing we can be doing.
Yeah, maybe something to add to that, Ron. I mean, so don't think, if you're listening to this call, Ron mentioned, some pretty specific companies there. He named off companies, and you might think, well, yeah, it's obvious. If I'm not somebody who would drink, or I'm against alcohol, then I shouldn't own Anheuser-Busch. Simple. What are they really doing, right? That's a pretty simple example. It gets really, really deep beyond that. An example that I would bring up is something that I struggle with, because it's one that I'm like, should I do business with this company, own their stock, have anything to do with them, is Amazon. So that's a tough one to get around, because if you hold an index fund today, you own Amazon. And most people do business with Amazon. I mean, it's like every other day a box shows up on my doorstep from them, it seems. And the reality of it is, I'm convicted. They're like, what's the big deal with Amazon? Well, what we don't see, and that you have to do the research to find out, right, Ron, is Amazon is more than just the people that ship you your toys around Christmas time, or your stuff for your family. They have a web hosting system, AWS. It's AWS. Which is hosting many, many, many websites. And we know that what drives revenue on the internet, a massive business, is something that hopefully everybody on this call can agree with is not something we would agree with doing business with, and that's pornography. Ron, your team, maybe speak to that real quick. We're getting in the weeds, but I think that's an interesting comment as we started our call with this of like, can I do business with them or own stock, and not understanding. Here's a great example.
Yeah, and from our perspective, we would say we would want to own Amazon, so that we could bring it to Amazon's attention that they are allowing pornography websites to be housed there, pressure them, so to speak, to run an internal report to see how many websites are being run that are pornographic in nature. And then there's more than likely, if there's pornographic websites, there's more than likely human trafficking or some sort of sex trafficking or child sex trafficking that's happening, and pressure them to make sure that they're alleviating that, so that it can be a safe environment for children and for people to be able to utilize the website in a Christian manner, from a Christian worldview perspective, rather than maybe not necessarily owning Amazon. Because in the same token, Ben, we can use Amazon and buy a Bible. We can use Amazon and stream a great Christian program, or we can use Amazon for their web hosting services and look at pornographic material. Are we to avoid that, or are we to own them and engage with them? And that's the question. And I think we're still sorting through that. And I think different people have different views, and I can appreciate that, and I have sensitivity around that.
Yeah, no, that's really good answer. But I think as we open this call with, again, making sure people don't hear like a legalistic, like your salvation issues and everything, we want to make sure that today's call comes down to you as an investor. Again, I believe you should look different, or at least you should look at your investments different than somebody who's not a believer. And then with that, you have the conversations with people like us, and we do look at our investments differently, and have this conversation like we're having today. That's really what today was about. Have the conversation, because We all do, like you said, have different convictions on those things, and there's different ways, even if we share the same conviction, as Ron says, that we should go about being a faith-based investor.
I mean, imagine if Disney's ownership was 75% Christians. I'm pretty sure the content we would be getting from Disney would be a little bit more aligned with our worldview perspective. And unfortunately, at this point in time, they're answering to shareholders that don't align with our values. So we need to be taking up more seats. We need to be taking more of those resources to have that conversation, to have that influence. Whereas if it was 75% of Christians, it's probably 50% of Christians are consuming Disney. So we should be owning it as well as consuming it, so that we can disagree with the things that they're producing, and let them know that they need to produce movies with heterosexual relationships, that they need to be producing movies with Jesus at the center and the focus of it. These are important things that are transforming the next generation. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. We have to be extremely mindful of the content they watch. I wish we could get Disney to produce Christian content. That would make my whole life a whole lot easier. Yeah. I'm just very passionate about it, and I love it, because this is an industry that has really blossomed in the last 6 years. And kudos to y'all. There aren't many financial advisors that are having and willing to have this conversation with their clients, because it can get a little sticky, it can get a little bit uncomfortable. And the fact that you guys are willing to go to that level with your clients speaks volumes. And I'm beyond blessed that you've afforded me the opportunity to just kind of give my testimony, so to speak, and introduce GuideStone, and really where the rubber's meeting the road is with y'all and your clients. And I'm just so encouraged that you guys are having this conversation. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, we want to invite everybody that's, again, on the call, maybe not doing business with our firm. If you want to get this conversation started, it's very easy. Just go to our website, taatjesfinancial.com. Like I said, click on the yellow or orange button in the upper right-hand corner to request a meeting. There will be a little option for you to check faith-based investing. That gives us the idea, at least we know why you're prompting that email. But like Ron said, we would love to have this conversation. It's on our radar. It's not for everybody. We've mentioned that in the past before, Ben, but if it is on your radar, if you feel convicted, that would be a conversation that we would gladly invite. I don't see any questions in the chat, which is just fine. So we'll start to wrap it up here. Ben, we appreciate your time here today. Any just final thoughts?
No, other than I really enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to, I've looked across the list of a few of the people on it. I know we'll be talking in our next meetings about this, because it is a nice thing to talk about. And feel free to disagree too, right? I mean, again, we're not all going to think the same way about this stuff, but I think having the conversation just is the first step in seeing that, hey, we are part of this world. We should look a little different than everybody else.
And Ron, we appreciate your passion and the work that you're doing at GuideStone. It's some wonderful work. So we wish you all the best. Why don't you give people a website of where people can find more about you at GuideStone?
GuideStoneFunds.org is going to be a great landing page for you. And then direct your conversations to Ben and Jarrett. They are experts in this. The CKA designation that Ben has is amazing. He's gone through some really rigorous training as it relates to being able to provide biblical advice, stewardship kind of your assets, and from a financial planning perspective. So he has a biblical worldview. He has a wealth of knowledge that I don't even have a fraction of when it comes to the CKA designation. It's a really impressive thing, and he'll certainly be able to answer all the questions that you have. If you have any additional questions, or if you want to go to our website, again, it's GuideStoneFunds.org, but Ben can take care of it, if not more. Trust me.
Oh, we appreciate that, Ron. We're so thankful that you joined us today. Ben, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us on this call here today. Again, this is something we've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to have this conversation. So Ben and Ron, we appreciate your time. Thank you for everybody who logged in here today. We wanted to keep it under an hour, and we did that by 4 minutes. So you're welcome. Have a wonderful day. Happy holidays, everybody, and have a wonderful day.